Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as I give you an early October garden tour. So let's go. We are now entering peak foliage season here in New England, and the leaves are looking so beautiful on all the trees. And for the next many videos, as I show you my garden, I'll be sure to show you what the leaves look like as well, because I realize that some of you might never experience fall foliage season, and it is such a beautiful time to be living here in New England right now. So join me today as I give you a full garden tour of my home garden. The lilac bed is looking so pretty. We have some nice color here for early fall. And the mums have started to bloom. Now these are perennial mums, and I had gotten these from my mother-in-law's house a number of years ago. They're a little droopy right now. They've flopped over a tiny bit, but I want to show you what they look like. Look how pretty they are. And what I really like about them is this time of year, when there's not a lot of things blooming in my yard, they're adding that nice pop of color. And right nearby, they're covered, but I have a perennial aster in here. And it's still pretty small. I'm hoping next year it puts on more growth, but it's a pretty purple color. What I'm planning to do early next spring is to not only divide my mums, but when I cut them back a couple of times during the spring and summer months, I'm going to be taking cuttings from them and I'm going to root those cuttings. I really want to increase my stock in my perennial mums. And look how beautiful this aster is. These have all been here for a few years now, and they're putting on some nice color down in this flower bed. There are still quite a few buds on these mums. They've just barely started to show color. So next year, be on the lookout for divisions of the mums and also moving the asters all around the yard as well. And if you see mums in the garden centers right now, get them in the ground and let them be. Don't cut them back. And there's a chance that they will come back for you next year. The leaves have started to fall, and I'm letting them be for right now, but once they start falling heavily, I will need to start collecting them and shredding them to put in my compost pile. This hydrangea here is looking gorgeous with its blush pink colors. I love hydrangeas. I really think they just add such a nice, pretty color to the garden this time of year. Even though begonias are annuals and these ones are kind of leggy because I got them in the ground later and I didn't cut them back, I'm glad I had them because they're adding that nice white pop of color in this particular flower bed. I've really learned to appreciate sedum. This time of year, you want to see these colors in your garden. Just so pretty. If you don't have sedum in your yard, I highly recommend you get some, and you'll be glad that you did. And there are different kinds of sedum out there. There's taller varieties, shorter varieties. There's even variegated ones, such as this one. As we head up to the bay window bed. Things are a little quiet in here, but I wanted to show you what's blooming and looking so pretty. Right now, the main star of the show, and it's just barely started to bloom, are the montauk daisies. Look at all the buds. I mean, who doesn't love a white daisy in the beginning of September? You go to the garden centers this time of year when they're selling the mums and the asters, you're most likely to also find that they're selling the montauk daisy. And that's a very easy plant to propagate, not only from division, but from cuttings as well. I like this angle right here, where you can see the montauk daisies, and just peeking right above them are the beautiful summer containers, which I'm going to leave because I really like their color this time of year. I think they look so pretty. The morning glories are still looking beautiful, and you better believe I'll be collecting the seeds off of those morning glories. I've come to realize that I really, truly enjoy the shorter variety of dahlias. They don't require any staking, and you can put them in pots, you can put them in the landscape. They're just like any other dahlia. They're easy to collect the seeds from them, and they're also, you can save the tubers during the winter months and increase your stock in them. In fact, these dahlias that you're looking at were started from seed a number of years ago. And now I just save their tubers and keep increasing my stock in these dahlias. The annuals up along the walkway, even though they're a little tired, are still providing some color. We have vinca in pink and white colors, and then we also have trailing lobelia as well as alyssum. All of the annuals that you see here were started from seed, and every year I collect their seeds. So I can't even remember the last time I've had to buy seeds for any of these plants. It's that time of year when these particular plants are getting a little tired. Part of it is I need to turn off the irrigation because the nights are getting cooler, the daytime temperatures are getting cooler. And that's why these particular plants here don't look as nice as the ones in the window boxes. It's simply because the ones in the window boxes are getting less water. But look how pretty they look. If you haven't already, friends, definitely start collecting your impatiens seeds. I promise you, you will be so happy you did. I'll be showing you this winter my process for starting impatiens from seed. You can save so much money that way, and you can grow so many plants. Just look how pretty all these impatiens look that I started from seed. The trailing plant that you see is a type of ligularia. I just received a couple of small cuttings for free that I collected last year. And I propagated those cuttings, and it's just amazing how much these plants have taken off. And you better believe I will be saving these plants again and taking cuttings from them again for next year. Because after all, who doesn't love making free pots and free containers? The pond is looking great, but within the next month, when the leaves really start falling, the pond ends up getting filled with the leaves. So once that starts happening, I'll be taking the filter out of here, the pump out of here, and basically closing up the pond for the season. But I really have enjoyed it here along my front walkway. And what I've also enjoyed around the pond are the annuals that I popped in around the pond here. We have the vinca, and then also all the begonias that were started from seed. And as always, I'll put links to videos down below, mostly playlists, showing you my process for collecting and starting the seeds of a lot of these plants, in case you're interested. It's like a little tropical oasis right here. This dahlia right here is also looking very pretty, and you can see it along with the vinca and the trailing lobelia with the blue in the background. And there's another little purple flower there. It's a pansy. These are just pansies that overwinter and come back every year for me in this flower bed. Look at all the pansies. They drop their seeds during the spring months, and I think I might actually go shopping in this area within the next few days and pluck out some of the pansies that are blooming and put them in a little container. Doesn't that look pretty? And this reminds me, I need to come in here and collect the seeds of the trailing white lobelia because I don't have a lot of their seeds. And here's a very pretty white colored dahlia. So easy to start from seed. So if you don't like storing the tubers every year, just start your dahlias from seed and you'll be so glad you did. Look at all the pansy seedlings. They will overwinter just fine in this bed, and come next spring, they'll be filled with pansies again, that I can basically shop my yard and pluck them out and put them into containers and pots. Do you remember when we worked on this flower bed here? It really just looks so pretty. I'm so glad we did this project together. And it made me realize certain areas of my yard where I definitely want to continue putting impatiens in the landscape. And this is one of them, because the impatiens just really thrive in this area. And in regards to those coleus, I'm hoping that they create flowers and go to seed, because I want to collect more of their seeds like I did last year. And if they don't, guess what? I'll be digging them up, I'll pot them up, and I just want them to flower so I can just collect their seeds. This hydrangea does not bloom profusely. And the reason is it's definitely in a more shadier location. But whatever blooms are on here, I do enjoy. It's also a hydrangea, just like all my others, that I wasn't very good about cutting back. And so it's definitely a little spindly. That's okay. She's still very beautiful. Up along my driveway, I have a number of hanging baskets hanging from trees. And they're just filled with plants that I either started from seed or plants that are perennials. We have the impatiens. There is some alyssum. And look how pretty the lamium is looking. At the end of the season, I'll just put the lamium in the landscape and I'll dig it back out for pots and containers for next year. And this lamium has a very pretty blossom to it as well. And then the creeping jenny. I have been super busy with my plant nursery, and I have heard from you that you want me to make videos on my plant nursery. And I'm sorry, I have not done it yet. honestly, because I've been so busy just potting up plants. But I promise you, I will be making a few videos soon to go over all the plants that are in my plant nursery, what my plans are for the rest of this year, and then what my plans are for next year. Anything that you see in this row here, these are all plants that I just put in this year. And in this section over here, I basically have stopped right there. I need to still tackle all those plants over there. And what I'm doing is I'm basically potting plants up. Any pots that, for whatever reason, don't have a plant in it that survived, I'm reusing the soil, I'm reusing the pot, and I'm basically just making little sections, little square sections of plants that are similar. That section over there, I stopped up to here, so I just need to finish up that section. Do you like baptisia or false indigo? Well, you should come to my nursery. I have a ton of it. How about iris? Have some iris. There's daylilies over here. I'll be making a video to talk about these plants here. That was an experiment for me, and I'm not going to tell you what the plants are quite yet. But if you guessed blueberries, they're not blueberries. We have a perennial type of geranium over here. They are looking fabulous. I'm almost doing that mini tour I promised you, but I'll be doing a more extensive tour on a different day. And a lot of other plants tucked in over here. So again, you can see I have a section here that I'm going to keep filling, and then back over there are a lot of plants that just need to get potted up, or I just need to see if they're alive or not alive and what I'm doing with them. But I am happy I'm making progress, but again, the leaves are falling. They're falling fast, which means the cool weather is coming. So I just need to keep staying focused on the task at hand. These are a lot of plants that I've potted up, and some of them might look dead to you, like these here, but they're not. They're actually ephemeral plants, and that's why you're not seeing any life in them. But I know what's in those pots. Same with a lot of these pots here. There's actually quite a few plants that die back every year, and those are called ephemeral plants. Here's another beautiful hanging basket. Right here in the nursery, I want to show you. There's a large tree, and it's this one right here. We will be cutting that tree down. And I know that's sad, but if you look around my yard, I have a lot of trees. That particular tree casts a lot of shade on this flower bed here. And some of you know I don't have a lot of full sun flower beds in my yard. This is one of my sunniest flower beds that I have, and it will actually be even sunnier once that tree is removed. That tree also casts a lot of shade on this part of my plant nursery. And that's not good because a lot of plants need the sun to thrive. So I really need that extra amount of sun. I kind of call this a triangular section of my plant nursery, but I did lose plants in this section because it was a little too shady. All these plants here are bee balm, all different colors of bee balm. And then that section over there is from last year, so I need to go through it. I need to see what survived, what didn't survive, what I need to pot up. And the same is true for all the plants that you're looking at down over here. This just gives you a different angle of the plant nursery and what we're looking at here. That big, huge plant over there, that's a foxglove that I winter sowed. Can't wait until it blooms next year. I have a number of foxglove in here as well. Look at all the pretty colors in here. the blooms on the hydrangea are beautiful, but as the leaves are changing color, I think that's just as beautiful as well. We recently did some work in this flower bed. This is what I call the side walkway flower bed. And I wanted to show you the Joe Pye weed. Someone had asked me what kind of Joe Pye weed this was. So I'm 5'4", that's how tall I am. And I had mentioned that these were 6 feet tall. They're actually a little bit shorter than me. So I would say they're about 5 feet tall. I'm not sure of their variety, but they are in quite a bit of sun and they are on irrigation. So they are just looking very pretty. But what I mentioned to that person that asked the question, which I always love your questions, by the way, thank you, was that there are many plants, including Joe Pye weed, that if you want to control their height, you can do the Chelsea chop on them, which means cut them back mid-season, like maybe June. And when you do that, you'll get a bushier plant. And I did not get to cutting this back. I wanted to, but I didn't get to cutting it back, which is why all the blooms are on the top. So if I can remember next year, I'd love to be able to cut this back. Even though I do love the height, it would be nice to get a bushier type of Joe Pye weed plant. And then right next to the Joe Pye weed is a type of miscanthus. And I apologize, I don't know the names of a lot of my plants because I've bought them a long time ago, or I got them from a family or a friend or another backyard plant nursery. But you can see that they are just budded up. I don't know if that's the right word when we talk about grasses, but they're going to be putting out their feathery plumes, as I call it, before you know it. So when I do my next garden tour, you'll see that. The perennial mums that I've had here for a few years now are in their prime. They are looking absolutely gorgeous. Without a doubt, I will be dividing this plant next year, moving it around. When I cut it back a couple of times during the season, I will be sure to take cuttings from it because I need more of this color and this form and habit of this mum around in my yard. And the little mums that we planted together that I got from Walmart for a very decent price are looking good. Fingers crossed, they should survive. We'll find out together next year. I know that you can get mums to come back, but it really depends on the variety and all other factors. And here's the other perennial mum, looking gorgeous as well. And I think I had only cut it back one time during the season. And I'm glad I did because it's nice and compact. It has a wonderful habit to it. And it's not just flopping over. It's not looking leggy. I'm especially loving how it looks next to the dianthus that I have at the front here. As beautiful as the dianthus was in the spring, I am really enjoying the dianthus this time of year in this flower bed. I just think it looks really pretty too. But as you know, cutback of plants has begun. It's a process. It's a lot of work. I highly encourage that if you have a lot of plants like I do, start getting after it because there's nothing worse than cutting plants back when it's like freezing cold out. In another week and a half, our nighttime temperatures are going to be in the high 30s. So I'm really trying to tackle as much as I can in my flower beds right now while the temperatures are still very pleasant. There are a few plants I still need to come in here and cut back, hopefully within the next day or two. And I talked about it in a recent video. One of them is this plant here, Cosmos. And yes, it is blooming, it looks pretty. Even if I don't fully cut it back, I at least want to come in and trim it, just like so it doesn't look so scraggly. The dianthus towards the front, as well as the bluish-green dianthus that's over here, these are all dianthus I've divided over the last many years. In fact, this section right here, I believe it was just last year where I got divisions from over there and put these here. That's how quickly dianthus grows. And a lot of people say to me, they didn't know dianthus was a perennial, that the tag says annual. And I'm here to tell you, friends, a lot of dianthus are perennials. So give it a try. You have nothing to lose. Buy it, put it in your landscape. Just make sure you give it enough time to establish itself, and you might be pleasantly surprised. Here's another perennial mum that we planted this year, and I love it. I think it's so pretty, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it also will return for us next year. Don't worry, I will be sure to give you an update, and I'll let you know. And as sad as it is that this tree will be removed this year, I know it looks beautiful, but there are a lot of other trees in the yard that will be changing soon. And when I do a garden tour later on in the month, I'll be sure to show you how the fall foliage looks like here in New Hampshire. It's just so pretty. I will be coming in very soon, and I will finish collecting the seeds that I want off of this coleus. And once I've done that, I will then at that time just cut back all of these flower stalks that have gone by. This time of year, in this pot, the irrigation is not really helping the plants in here, especially the ligularia and the creeping jenny. So I will be turning the irrigation off at this time of year. I think this angle right here looks so pretty. You can see the hosta garden in the back. You can see all the hanging baskets on the trees. The lawn is looking nice and green with the leaves on it. And then we have this beautiful pot here. We're currently upstairs off my bedroom balcony, and you can see the trees are just slowly starting to change. And there are some of those beautiful hydrangea off in the distance there. You can see the old arborvitae bed is over here, and down over here is my side porch, and it's looking very pretty. I have some window boxes up here off my balcony. I put drought tolerant plants here because I'm not that great about watering them. So you've seen these in other areas of my yard, but these are the vinca, the annual vinca. And down over here is my hosta garden. You can see the hanging baskets. Soon enough, it's going to be time to cut the hosta back because they are starting to turn over with their color. I just mowed my lawn, so that's why there aren't many leaves on my lawn. This time of year, it's very tricky to film my backyard or really any areas of my lawn because the leaves are going to be falling daily now. And what's nice about mowing the lawn this time of year is I can use the bagger and I can get grass clippings as well as a small amount of leaves because the leaves aren't falling terribly yet. You can see that I have a lot of trees in my backyard, and quite a few of those will drop their leaves. And once the leaves come down really fast, at that point, that's when I start using a tarp and my leaf blower, and I start collecting the leaves from my compost pile. And down over here, that's the rose garden, just looking down at it. And just beyond the rose garden is the raised vegetable garden. This is a rock wall, and there are the begonias there, as well as the creeping phlox that blooms in the springtime. And on this back porch here, you can see that I have more window boxes. So things are still putting out a little bit of color despite the time of year. We recently cleaned out a flower bed on the south side of my house. And I'm loving the way that these begonias are looking. So I'm making a mental note that next year I want to make sure I add more of this begonia all around my yard. Especially in this particular large flower bed. It's a narrow but very long flower bed. And you'll notice, even though we did clean it and cut back a lot of perennials in here, how nice it would look if we had those white begonias, just to add a small pop of color in this flower bed. And these are things that I definitely want to keep in mind for next year. I love my perennials, but the annuals are really nice to lean on heavily when there's not much else blooming this time of year. I have some really pretty hydrangeas that are blooming. I would say that they are pretty much at their peak right now. In fact, there are a few that are just putting on a little bit of white color. But they look so pretty. And next year I will be taking some cuttings off of these. When I cut them back in the spring, I'll take those cuttings and I will root them. And these are just for my own property, for my backyard. Because if you're going to take cuttings, why throw them away? You might as well just root them and create more hydrangeas for your property. My alpine strawberries continue to put out fruit, and Mr. Budget Gardener and I have really been enjoying them. And I don't mind sharing the strawberries with my chipmunk and squirrel friends, because after all, they need to eat too. And it's amazing that I just started some plants from seed a few years ago, probably, if I had to guess, about 3 or 4 years ago. And just like all strawberries do, they multiply over time. And with this kind of strawberry, it's the type that doesn't send off runners. So you just have to basically divide it at the base. And I think they're very cute. They're a very small but very sweet type of strawberry. And in this raised bed, there are raspberries and there are also strawberries. And these are the type of strawberries that send off the runners. Now, I thought with these type of strawberries that they bloomed in the spring and then that was it for the year. But they have been putting off a lot more strawberries even as we enter into the early fall months here. And there's nothing better than being able to not only harvest vegetables from your yard, but fruit as well. And next spring, I have to come in here and I have to take care of all these runners. I just need to pot them up or put them in containers and pots. That might be pretty, to do some containers and pots around the yard. But the strawberries have definitely been a hit in our yard and in our garden this year. And I have more of the alpine strawberries in this bed. And what's looking really beautiful are the blueberries. Look at their beautiful red foliage, the red color. And in this final raised bed over here, there are more raspberries and more strawberries. I have work to do in all of these beds next year. I didn't get to it this year, and that's okay. Next year I'll be coming in and thinning out beds and changing things around a little bit. So be on the lookout for those videos next spring. In case you're wondering about these raised beds, they're from Gardener Supply. I picked them up in Vermont and I got them at the end of the season. I believe it was 2 years ago. They were marked down on clearance and I really do enjoy them. Be on the lookout. We'll be working on this area together. I just need to pull out some perennials like this one over here, the great blue lobelia that self-seeded itself. And at this time, we are going to cut back the blooms off of the coleus. I'll collect some seeds off of them, but I don't need all the seeds. I just want this area to look a little tidier. I let the blooms go the way they are because I wanted to collect some of the seeds from them. So we'll be doing some of that. And even if we remove the leaves from this bed, they're just going to continue coming over the next month. So that's not a concern, to be honest with you. It's more just tidying it up for the blooms for the coleus. And there might be a stray weed or two in here, but we'll just get this bed looking a little bit tidier. And we are due to have our first frost in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So before you know it, we'll be cutting back all of these annuals, but we might as well enjoy them while we can. You can see at the base there's alyssum and there is trailing lobelia. And then towards the center of the bed, there is the annual vinca. And then in the center middle part there, we have the black scallop ajuga. And it's just a temporary holding spot, but we have the rhododendrons. They're the small leaf rhododendrons that I believe it was last year we dug up from up along the driveway where they weren't getting much sun, they weren't getting much water. And I put them in this area here because there is sun here and we have drip irrigation. And they've really put on quite a bit of growth since we planted them here. Here on the porch, we have a couple of window boxes and they need some water, especially this one here. But it is coming to that time of year anyway, but I will be taking care of these. But I really have enjoyed them, and I think next year I just want to do impatiens in here. I love my wax begonias, but I don't think I love them in these window boxes. So next year I think I'm just going to do impatiens. Before a frost hits, it's my preference to cut back all the hosta. And hosta are a plant that you do want to cut back. You don't want to keep them throughout the winter months because they can carry disease. The slugs love to live under the leaves. And it's okay to leave a lot of your perennials out if you want to during the winter months for the birds and for beneficial insects to live in the stems. But when it comes to hosta, that's a plant that you definitely want to cut back. So I'll be doing that. And I really have enjoyed these hanging baskets. They just add that nice pop of color that you really need out here as we enter the backyard. I've also enjoyed these impatiens that were planted just towards the front of the hosta bed, just for a little bit more color here. It's where the lawn ends and where this hosta garden begins. Look at all the fall leaves. Here in my backyard, this is, I call my rock garden. It's like a rock wall. And the wax begonias went in very, very late. But amongst the leaves, I do think they are looking beautiful. Just to add a little bit of color here. And these are just some annuals that I had started from seed, and I just put them in the landscape here in the backyard, just to add a little bit of color. You'll notice I rely heavily on these shade-loving annuals because there is a lot of shade in my yard. And in this particular area, I would love to add more of this coleus in big groupings. So for next year, I think I'm just going to plant a ton of this particular type of coleus because I really do love it. And there's something to be said about having a big grouping of a certain type of plant for impact. Here we are at the rose garden, and there are a lot of different colors going on here. I am really, truly enjoying this. The purple color, those are annuals, and those are a type of salvia. They had dropped their seeds. I really do need to start a lot more of those next year because I love their height and I love their color. The roses are looking very pretty, mostly pink colored roses in this garden. There are a few others, but mostly pink. The white color in the center of the bed, those are the begonias that I had started from seed. I've been really busy collecting a lot of seeds from a lot of my plants, but especially the begonias. The yellow colored flower, that's an annual, and that's called hydrangeas or bidens. And those had dropped their seeds, and I just let them do their thing because I figured it would be nice to have that yellow color in this flower bed because I knew that there was a lot of pink, and then eventually there would be the white and the purple. So just to add some yellow in this area. In my raised vegetable garden in the backyard, the green beans are coming. And if I have to, I can cover them if we do get a light frost, because I just want to enjoy one more round of green beans for this year. But I am glad that we succession planted the green beans. This was, I believe, our third or fourth round of green beans for the year. There's nothing better than a fresh green bean out of the garden. Maybe with a little bit of ranch dip or hummus. I hope this video inspired you and gave you some ideas for your own garden. As always, if you have any questions or comments, I love hearing from you. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.